We're recording.
Go.
Go.
Is it on?
Yes, it's on.
Are you sure it's on? So, ladies and gentlemen, Hamid's got a confession.
Oh, am I doing the confession?
Yeah, I'm doing the questions, you're doing the confession.
Okay, so you drove like 3 hours here, 4 hours here, 5.
Yeah, probably.
And then you drove 4 or 5 hours back.
Yeah.
And then a few weeks later I said, oh, guess what, Peter? I got good news and bad news. And you were like, oh yeah. And I was like, bad news is the podcast didn't go really well because I forgot to turn the mics on and it sounds like we're talking like this. I was like, I don't think the listeners will like it. And you were like, what's the good news? I'm like, you get to come down again.
I get to drive another 5 hours down to see you. That's all right, Hamid. We're friends.
Are we?
Mind. We are friends. We are still friends.
Because I said...
Despite your amateurish incompetence.
I know, it's just terrible. Dude, I'm so sorry.
So can we just check again?
I know, I'm checking again.
Are they on?
Definitely. Dude, 100%. And I always check, which is what upset me so much last time. It's on.
Anyway, the good news is...
Yeah.
We had a rant last time.
Epic
We've
rant.
got even more to rant about this time. We've got more.
We're
2 months further into this shit show.
Okay.
We've got a lot to talk about.
What are we going to talk about now?
What I want to talk about, firstly, is all your new kit.
Oh, yeah. What new kit?
Well, there's a new camera. There's at least one new camera. There's some investment going on in the life of Ahmed Malik.
Right. Okay. So this is actually a really nice story, my friend. So I need to thank someone called Richard M.
Richard M.
Yeah, he's asked me just to use his first name, Richard M. So Richard M is a supporter of mine. And Richard M he sends me an email. Ahmed, I listen to every single one of your podcasts. They are fracking epic. You've kept me sane. I love you so much. But dude, your £5 a month is just bollocks. I need to give you something more than that. Like £5 a month is just ridiculous. Like, seriously, I feel embarrassed. Like, for all that you've done for me, I'm just giving you £5 back. I was like, well, that's very nice of you. He went, I'm into this whole photography, camera stuff. That's my kind of line of work. Do you need anything? And I was like, actually, yeah, I need some help because the cameras that I've got switch off after 45 minutes to an hour. And the longest one I've got lasts about an hour. The other two typically cut out at 30 minutes. And on that note, by the way, this one's just cut out. So I'm just going to pause and figure out what's going on. It helps if I don't pull the lead out, right?
Are we going to edit this bit?
No, we're not editing. Everything, I just needs to show what a clown I am sometimes. So basically, Richard goes, I'm in the camera business, right? And I'm like, well, the cameras are cutting out. So technically, yeah, it'd be great if I could get a new camera that stays on. He goes, you know which one? I went, well, I don't know, actually. And I said, the problem is that the cameras that I've got as backups, Blackmagic 4K, they don't have the same quality, the color, the light. So that's why often, the camera on me was quite good, but the camera on you, the guest, wasn't that great.
Mm-hmm.
And this one would cut off anyway. And that's why there was 2 cameras there before, remember?
Yeah.
And that was my second one. After about an hour, I had to switch over.
Yeah.
It was really annoying, man.
Mm.
And then he said, well, listen, I'll spend £1,500, get you, 2 cameras.
Legend.
And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah. And then I started looking up cameras that I could get. And then I was like, do you know what? I should spend his money as if it's mine. Just because I'm being offered this money doesn't mean I should just splash out and get more cameras. I was like, so I wrote back to him. I got the email. And I went, do you know what I want, actually, mate, is I just want someone to come down who's an expert in cameras and look at what I've got. Because the cameras are great lenses, great quality. They just cut out. Is there a setting problem that I haven't figured out? Is it the adapter continuous power supply that needs to be changed? Like, maybe that is all that will be needed to fix the problem. Because I've got great cameras that just don't work the way I want them to. He went, yeah, leave this with me. So then a week later, he comes back to me and he goes, I've got someone who's studying photography and cameras and they know a little bit about this stuff. So I'm going to get them train tickets down because he's up in Manchester. Train tickets down to you. They're going to spend a night in a hotel and then they're going to come round and have a look at your setup.
Good stuff.
So this little boy called Toby then pitches up with his brother. And they look at my cameras and he's like, oh, he's scratching his head. I'm like, I'm not really sure about this, Ahmed. Yeah, it's not used to this. And we just spent 3-4 hours and he changed a lot of settings in the cameras. And he went, your power things are really crappy. I would change them. I'd get better power and maybe try a different company. So I spent £250 buying different power cables yeah. And he had changed the settings. He did change them and they're working.
Ah.
They're working. And then I wrote back to Richard M and said, dude, that fucking Toby guy, he sorted it out. I bought some new cables and it's working just fine. You don't need to spend money on the cameras. He went, no, but that still leaves me with the problem. I want to get you something though. And I was like, I'm okay. I'm good now. He went, you're really, really sure? And I was like, well, actually, the tripods that I had took up a lot of footprint.
Yeah, that's what's.
And as I was walking past, I kept knocking them. So something that just stands up on its own and has got, the base and you can navigate around it. And like, because the tripod's really extended out. You had to kind of almost step over them all the time and you kept knocking them.
Yeah.
He went, no, just leave it with me. And then he went, yep, 3 of these. And I was like, yeah, but they're like £450 each. He went, it's all right. They're coming next Tuesday. And I'm like, see you next Tuesday. Like the opposite. I was like, seriously, it's coming on Tuesday. But yeah just 3 of them. Mate, my pleasure.
Well, Richard M., you're a legend. It looks awesome. It does. It looks professional. Now, do you know someone who can sort your mics out?
And keep the cables. I mean, like, that's the problem. Like, I have to, like, juggle so many balls. Like, think about the conversation, welcome the guests.
Yeah, sure.
Make sure they're speaking properly, keep the conversation flowing, have camera, lights, mics, everything working. Oh, by the way, what do you think of my sign?
It's... Yeah.
Do you notice it's not on?
Yeah, I do notice it's not on. I do notice on your email, on the backing of your WhatsApp message, it's on.
Yeah.
What's wrong? Fuse gone?
It broke after a week.
Ahmed, there's a trend forming here. You and technology.
It's all right. It's all right. So I contacted the company, the neon sign company. Literally, it's called a neon sign company. And I said, love the sign, but it ain't working. And it's just not working. And they looked at it, like they said, send me a video and blah, blah, blah. And there's a box down there and the lights were shining and this just wasn't. They went, it doesn't happen. And I'm sorry. We're going to have to send you a new one. And then it was like, fine, because actually the bottom part, the honest health part, doesn't light up. I really want that to light up. I don't know why that's not light. Can you send it? So they're actually reconfiguring it, making it bigger, like just depth wise, and the bottom part will light up as well. And actually, I put this up with my kids, and actually I did a really bad job of centering it. So next time around, I'm going to do it with my wife, and we'll put the sign more in the middle, and hopefully it'll work.
So any builders out there who listen to Ahmed, can you come here with his spirit level? Because I don't think it's level either.
No, the spirit level is definitely level.
Really?
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, okay.
I'll get it out and show you. But you're right. But sometimes, like, because if this is not on the level, then you're basing, do
you feel slightly.
Yeah.
Is there a film and TV school down the road?
Yes, there is.
Yeah,
it also partly burnt down as well.
That had nothing to do with you, though, sure.
No. It's woke central.
Could you not get a
student from down there?
Get a Toby from down there?
No, they're woke central.
Good point. Well made. Yeah, of course.
Total woke. They would have burnt this place down. They would have burnt this place down.
That's what we're going to talk about.
What? Woke central?
Peak woke.
Peak woke?
That's one of the things we can talk about. Peak woke.
Are we at peak woke now?
I think we're beyond it. No.
Dude, I'm really paranoid. I keep checking the mic to make sure it's on. Oh, dude, it's like...
I think the world has changed.
You just figured that out now?
No, I think it's changing for the better.
What?
And I'm not renowned for my optimism.
Okay.
I'm not renowned for my optimism, but I think there's reasons to be optimistic.
Convince me. What did your T-shirt say?
Oh, ride for your life.
All right. Okay. Great.
It's a diabetes thing. Cycling and diabetes.
Okay.
So yeah. Anyway,
you got your notes.
Yeah, no, so the notes, I don't normally talk with notes, but I'm
Mate, I'm really, what the hell? There's a shit ton of notes. Can you just like lift it up so people can see the amount of notes you got?
So this is going to be funny. So there's a shit ton of notes because I do a bit of writing now and again, as you know. You've had
Dude, it's on the back of biscuit.
biscuit wrappers, Fox's biscuits. There we go. When ideas come to me, I have to write them down.
Okay.
Otherwise, I forget. It's an age thing. You come up with a classic line and you think, I've got to write that down.
That's good.
Otherwise, I'll forget it.
I need to write down my experience of having a psychedelic recently.
Yeah, you can tell me that later. Maybe not on mic. But...
Yeah, I don't know. Can I quickly ask you something?
Go on.
I really want to write a Substack about my experience. It was freaking woof.
We'll write a Substack. You're in the independent media.
Some people are like, oh, you shouldn't do that. You definitely shouldn't talk about that. But I feel like it's one of the top 3 things I've ever done. I feel like I should talk about it.
You listen to Joe Rogan, right?
Yeah.
He's always banging on about it.
But I'm not Joe Rogan.
I've told you before, someone's going to fill the position of the UK's Joe Rogan. We haven't got one yet.
All right. Well, okay, great.
So talk about your mushrooms and check the mics while you're at it. So yeah, so I started writing. I was somewhere where I didn't have any paper and I couldn't find anything to write on. So I butchered a biscuit box and I had a felt tip pen, so I ended up writing. So I do a bit of writing every now and again, and I don't really publish them. I send them to friends and family and whatever. And it dawned on me, the UK and the US election, turning point, I think. So to put some background on this, because I don't think we covered it in the last podcast, I spent 20 plus years working in the city. I'm not an economist. Just like our current Chancellor, I'm not an economist. I do have an A-level in economics. But what I do have is a lot of experience and knowledge around the plumbing of the financial system and the economy. And I think we're in a bit of a mess, to say the least. I think people need to wake up. And I've got a load of numbers here, and that's why I've got notes. I want to keep the numbers accurate. But this is the basis of my next thing I'm going to write. What was that noise?
That was nothing.
Oh, okay.
That wasn't
the mics packing up.
That wasn't the fact that I forgot to turn my phone off, because I would never do something so amateurish like that. Never. No. That was your phone.
That wasn't my phone. So anyway, So I think the US election has changed everything. Now I know a lot of people doubt Trump. Yeah, this is why I'm sort of caveating at this up front. You doubt Trump. I doubt Trump. You cannot doubt some of the people he's appointing to certain positions. And we can talk about them as well.
Do it. Go for it, man. I'm all ears. You know me. I'm open-minded.
You're open-minded. I'm going to change your mind on Trump.
Great.
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
I think Trump he's the cheerleader. He's almost irrelevant in this. But what I want to do is start sort of talking about the UK economy, because I think we're in a very, very difficult position. This is going to be slightly technical, and I'm going to stick to the notes, and we'll sort of go through the story of where we are.
I'm confused. I thought you said things are going to be okay, and it's going to be great, and it's going to be positive. And you're like setting up this scene that.
But we're always one parliament behind America.
Okay.
And they've turned for the better. So as long as we can get through the shit show between now and 2029, I think I don't know what the answer is, but I think things will improve. And I'll go on to why I think that. The situation we have today is we have out-and-out Marxists in number 10 and number 11 Downing Street. No doubt about that. And if you do doubt that, refer to the work by Connor Tomlinson and Harry Robinson at Lotus Eaters. They've done a lot of digging into certainly Keir Starmer's background.
He's got a Fabian background.
He's an out-and-out Marxist,
isn't he? And yeah. Fabians are Marxists.
Yeah, but even his formative years, he was skipping off to behind the Iron Curtain to do training camps and everything.
What?
Oh yeah. You listen to Connor and Harry at Lotus Eaters have done a lot of digging into his background, and it's eye-opening. So yeah, Trump is not ideal, but the coalition he's collected around him, and I know there's some characters there we don't like. There's some characters there I don't like. Some influences I really don't like. but it's a shitload better than the alternative.
So give us some examples, like who are the characters who are not good?
I think the influence of Peter Thiel is worrying.
Why?
Peter Thiel he's a tech bro. He owns a company called Palantir. He's been involved in Facebook, PayPal, made a lot of money. He's very successful if you measure success in terms of money. But he's very much down the, how can you describe it, technocracy, control.
Doesn't he have money in mRNA factories or whatnot, and
I don't know about that.
gene tech or whatever?
Probably, but I'm more worried about Palantir, which is a spyware company at the end of the day, a data gathering spyware company.
Don't they do AI, facial recognition, mapping, profiling?
So he's a lot of the money behind JD Vance to start with. Now, the one thing I'll say about all these tech bros is they're not stupid. They will go where they think they're going to be best treated. So they supported the Democrats when the Democrats were in favor. And isn't it interesting how they're all starting to flip now?
Well, the Republican Party under Trump is basically Democrats now. It's a Democratic team.
Well, that shows you how the whole Overton window shifted, doesn't it? I mean, who are the ex-Democrats? You've got Tulsi Gabbard, you've got Kennedy, Trump was a Democrat, Musk, Democrats.
Yeah. Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan he's a lefty by his own admission.
Yeah. I
actually think, named 5 names there. They're sensible people at the end of the day, on the whole. They talk a lot of common sense. On the whole, we're never going to agree with everything. You and I don't agree with everything. We have our differences. But what you've got to think about is in a 2-horse race where you've got to have a winner, did you want this or did you want the other lot? And I know which one I would have taken. Because the other lot were, again, Marxist, fascist, call them what you want, totalitarian influence. And this lot they're slightly less bad.
Everybody knows my views, so I want you to talk about it a bit more. But just very quickly, I reject the 2-horse race. Like, it wasn't even a 2-horse race. One was a lame, dead donkey. It's like, oh,
it's still in the race, though.
Yeah, I know.
They were still in the race, however.
Like it was literally going before it gasped and died. I mean, who's going to vote for that? Kamala donkey, sorry, no thanks.
60, 70 odd million Americans did.
I know. It's just mind-blowing. And then Trump is like a 3-legged lame horse. It's like, no, I don't want that either.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I reject politics because I think it's just a tool to keep the slaves under this illusion that they have a say in things when they don't.
But this is the system we've got. And until a better system can be created, what can we do?
Revolution!
You might just have had a revolution in America. And that's what we'll come on to talk about.
Okay.
I think.
Go.
And until we get your ideal scenario, we're stuck with this system. And the reality is, your ideal scenario probably won't happen in my lifetime. If it does, it'll be a revolution, and you and I are going to be on the barricades, and we're toast anyway. So we've had it.
Yeah.
There's 2 caveats here to sort of the new administration in America. Are they being genuine? Now, you have your doubts. I have my doubts. I'm probably more optimistic than you are on this. And can they actually pull off what they're talking about? So they are the 2 big caveats. Are they just more of the same under a different banner? Or are they genuine, and can they do what they're saying? And our hope is the changes they're making there spread or have an influence in the UK. And that is my point about that we're always a parliament behind them. If they do not make a difference in America, I think by 2030, we will own nothing and we won't be happy.
I know.
To paraphrase.
So, who are you hopeful about? What are they going to be doing?
We'll come on to that.
Oh, okay. You're teasing me. Come on.
I'm going to tease you. So now we're going to drop America.
Yeah.
We're going to check the microphones are still working.
Yeah, they are. I'm
checking. Talk about the UK, then we're going to come back to America.
Okay.
And I'm going to get economic on you.
That's okay.
So, current government clearly lied to get into power. I'm just going to outline some of the things that have happened in the last 5 months. We now have political prisoners in the UK. We probably already had them, but we now have high-profile political prisoners in the UK. People are getting a knock on the door. And if you don't understand the meaning of the knock on the door, read Solzhenitsyn's Gulag Archipelago, because that tells you where we're going, basically. We have a weaponized judiciary, and free speech is under threat in a big way. Now, we talked about this over a year ago, the threat to free speech. Clear now, you can't say what you want at all. We have an attack on the farmers. Now, I live in an agricultural community, and trust me, I think what that is all about is stripping land from the farmers. It's a great way to
it's an asset grab.
Collectivize farmland. Collectivism. And all dictators, so if you look at Stalin, Pol Pot, Mao, a central policy of theirs was collectivization of farms. And that is a disaster. People starve when you collectivize farms.
Khmer Rouge as well.
Yeah. All dictators. They all go for the how do you control humans? The food supply. They tried the vaccine passports, that failed. We'll go for the food supply. And this IHT inheritance tax attack on farmers is bigger than they admitted to in the budget. It's not just 500 farms a year. It's going to be thousands. So what you can see where I'm going with this is this Marxist doctrine that we have governing the country is now we're slipping very gradually into communism. We have extreme taxation. All that is again a property grab. Marxists do not believe in private property rights. Come back to 2030, you'll own nothing. This is a grab for assets. The budget actually wasn't as bad as feared, but we've got 4 more under this regime if it lasts. I think they're going to ratchet up the tax regime more and more each budget, and it is all about asset grab. And to give you an idea, I mean, I've thought long and hard about leaving the UK, and I just can't do it. I won't do it. I'll stay and fight. But there's currently a 2,500 family waiting list of Brits trying to get into Monaco. And that is wealth. That is business owners. You know, that's the future of the country.
2,500.
That's just Monaco. That's not Portugal. That's not Greece, who also have attractive taxation regimes for people leaving. There's a 2,500 person waiting list to get into Monaco. Brits. They've obviously never been to Monaco because it's a horrible place, but you wouldn't want to live there. But so what you can see is the government are starting to implement a communist manifesto, if you like. We're also seeing things like private pension assets being co-opted. So there was an announcement about a month and a half ago, I think, about pooling of local authority pension funds. And there was loads of excuses. This makes pension fund investing more efficient. What it actually means is the government can now control the assets of those pension funds. So people in the public sector, although they think they're getting away with it at the moment, they're not. Their pension funds are being pushed into pet projects of the government. And the whole point was, well, we're going to fund infrastructure with this. The finances, which we'll come on to of the country, are in such a bad state. They need that pool of assets to be able to spend on infrastructure to, fulfill their pet projects, if you like. So this is all creeping communism as such.
And even the pet projects, aren't the pet projects basically just crony capitalism? It's about how do we give our donors and funders big government contracts to build railway tracks we don't need and bridges that go nowhere. And so you're basically just taking taxpayers' money and giving it to your friends.
I mean, HS2, I can't remember what that started off at. It was 30 billion, 40 billion, and now it's
200, 300 billion?
It's a massive number. It's a significant multiple times.
Who's making money out of that? All the friends of government.
What was it? The trace?
Track and trace.
Track and trace, 32 billion to build an app.
It wasn't just an app. It was also the I think it was like more than that, but yeah.
But 32 billion?
I know.
Where did that money go?
I know.
Do we need a Department of Government Efficiency?
I'll fucking head it up.
I'll head it up.
You can be my deputy.
Thanks. I'll make sure the microphones are turned on. Flip back to Trump. There was something I forgot to say. Last time, he went in there, didn't expect to win the election, didn't have a clue, got completely legged over, basically, by the deep state.
That's you being kind, but yes.
Yeah, that's me being kind, but I'm a kind sort of guy. This time, I think it's interesting that his transition team has been in place for months now. Before he even won the election, he had people working on what they were going to do. It's privately funded. There's no government buildings being used, no government technology. The deep state have no idea what's coming because they have not managed to infiltrate that transition team.
Really?
Yeah. Well, you say really. Allegedly, that is what he has said, they have said. I know everyone says, Trump will just be a deep state stooge again. But the reality is he's not acting like one at the moment.
I hope not. But you know what? What concerns me is the whole Israel first, Zionist first. And, you got money from, was it someone, Ari Sheldon or something, $100 million? Like,
deeply concerning.
What was that for? Like, you don't just give $100 million and expect nothing in return, mate.
No.
Like,
no.
That doesn't happen.
Totally happen. And don't get me wrong, it's not perfect. I've said that. I'll keep saying that. It's not perfect. There are things I totally disagree with. And
I've seen pictures, like, for example, on the ringside, MMA fighting, UFC. UFC, it's interesting who owns it. The same guy.
Dana White.
No, Dana White runs it.
Oh, okay.
The owner is the brother of Emmanuel Ram, the guy who was the mayor of Chicago and got Obama into power. And the brothers, there's three brothers, and one of the brothers owns UFC. And their dad was actually a Zionist terrorist. Even the Israeli state recognizes as their dad as a Zionist terrorist. And they're really like hardcore. And Elon Musk and Trump are there in the front row at this UFC, and this guy's the owner of the UFC is taking pictures of them, and Elon Musk is making this weird devil sign, it just finger, symbology.
Yeah, no, I get it.
You're just like, what is going on? This occultism is very strong in them, and it just gets.
Or are they all playing the game?
I don't know. And Gavin Silverman, who's the Maverick coach, he's Jewish, British. He's coming back again on the show. He wants to talk about the Third Temple. He talks about how he says Trump's converted to Judaism and is now wanting to build a third temple and I saw all this weird shit going on that I just don't understand.
That's beyond my pay grade.
Exactly. I'm like, what is happening here?
I'm looking at the facts.
Right. Look at the facts.
Of our economy and how they are going to impact us. So let's look at our economy. That takes us on to our economy. Right. Debt to GDP, according to the Office for National Statistics today, is 98.8%. So we owe the world an entire year's output. Basically, everything that's made, every service.
But isn't that normal?
No.
Isn't that what's the background average running like in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s?
Right. So you need to, if you go pre-gold standard, debt to GDP would be very, very low in all Western countries.
Like what?
Apart from wartime periods. 20s, 30%, something like that.
I know, but that gold standard was 50 years ago. Yeah. Now, since then.
But since the gold standard. It's just gone up and up and up because we now live in a debt-based economy, a credit-based economy.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a study about 20 years ago by two professors, Reinhardt and Rogoff, and they studied every sovereign debt crisis in the last 700 or 800 years. And their big conclusion from this was any debt to GDP ratio over 90% was unsustainable and ended up in a default situation.
Is this public debt?
This is public government sovereign debt. Yes. Because if you take total debt, it's multiples of the sovereign debt. Corporate debt and financial debt is a lot higher. So,
okay. Yeah.
So if you want to know what's normal and sustainable is below 90%. If you're above 90%, which we are considerably, then it is unsustainable.
Yeah, I've got a chart here that stretches back to 1749.
Yeah.
So it says UK national debt to percentage GDP. In the 1700s, it was actually between 100 and 150%.
Was that a war period?
I don't know, probably wasn't.
Probably. It'll be war periods.
Napoleonic War was 250%. Then it went way down over the 1800s, during the Victorian era. Actually came down really low to about 25%.
Spiked on the First World War.
World War One, it went up to 175.
Yeah.
In between the wars, it came down to about 100%. World War Two, it went back up to about 240. And then it came back down over the 60s and 70s.
And then from 73 onwards, it's gone up consistently.
Yeah, and really since 2010, it's gone from about 50% to now 100%.
So that was the cost of the financial crisis, and then the cost of COVID being ramped on top of it. So in peacetime, this is very unusual.
Yeah.
To have sovereign debt this high. Now, what's really bad about this is we're adding to it the whole time. So to October 2024, the budget deficit, so the increase in debt, was 64 billion, according to the OBR, the Office of Budget Responsibility. And there's an oxymoron if you ever want one. It's just brilliant.
I was going to say, how did those people get up and do their job?
Anyway.
Look themselves in the mirror.
To October 2025, the OBR forecast, based on the recent budget, is spending by the UK government will be 1.276 trillion. Receipts from taxation will be 1.149 trillion. So there's going to be a deficit over the next year of 127 billion pounds. So the debt is going to have to increase by 127 billion pounds.
It's a lot of money.
But that's what they're forecasting. Now, because of what the government have done and said they're going to do, the probability is spending will be higher and tax receipts will be lower. So the implication is the deficit will be bigger. And I'm going to come back to that point because that is the problem. How do you fund the government? Two ways: debt and taxation. We're at the point with taxation where it's not worth working unless you have to. Taxation is so extreme. There's no point entrepreneurs starting businesses now.
I'm glad you're saying this because that's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple of business ideas. I could fund them. I'm just not going to. Why would I do it for no return? And also the other thing you can throw in here is regulation as well. If you're in an industry that's regulated, it's just not worth starting a business.
Do you know, honestly, the income that I've generated this last year
has gone in tax.
It's gone just to pay the tax for the year before that.
Yeah. We're all roughly in the same boat.
And I'm like, what the frack, man?
Why am I bothering?
Why am I, like, seriously?
Yeah.
Like, it's bullshit.
Yeah. Well, if you work out all the taxes you pay, I mean, it's horrific. Basically, everything you earn over your lifetime goes in tax. There's very little left at the end of it.
Total slavery.
Yeah. But it crushes economic growth. Extreme taxation crushes economic growth. Without economic growth, taxation revenues do not rise. But if your spending's going up, which the government have committed to, your budget deficit has to grow. So that stack of debt that the country owes is growing.
And the interest on that is just incredible.
We'll come back to that because the ultimate result of this is interest rates are going to go up. Not immediately, not in a straight line. They might go down before they go up. But we'll come back to what incentivizes people to fund the debt is interest rates at the end of the day. And if there's more debt, you need a bigger incentive, a bigger interest rate to fund that debt. So we're in a position where the government has said we've got a pro-growth budget that's going to reduce inflation. And the reality is they've got an anti-growth budget that's going to increase inflation. That's the problem we've got, or one of the problems we've got. So the Bank of England are forecasting next year, economic growth in 2025, Bank of England forecast will be 1.5% growth. That is technically what's known as stall speed in the economic world. Anything below 2% economic growth, you're within the margin of error of actually you could be in recession. It wouldn't take much to tip the whole country in recession. Go into recession, what happens? Taxation receipts fall, and therefore your borrowing has to go up. So what you can see is forming here is we're in a position where we end up in a vicious economic circle of decline, accelerating decline. And I'll come on to why that is in a minute. I think one of the other problems here is, and you've just touched on it with taxation, none of us have any spare cash at the end of by the time you've covered your living expenses. Consumer spending is under pressure. Now, why is that important? 60% of the economy of the UK is based on consumer spending. So if we've got no discretionary spending power at the end of the month, or we're contracting our spending, the biggest part of the economy is shrinking. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And again, that's another threat to taxation. Put it in layman's terms, the consumer's tapped out unless they're spending on debt. So when you see these new cars on the road and you think, oh, the economy must be really good, they're all financed through debt. Well, not all, but a vast majority are financed through, are they called PCPs or something like that?
Yeah, exactly.
Never been interested in it.
I've never had one.
No, but I mean, it's a way of getting something today that you haven't really earned the right to, which is alien to me. So I think the reality is growth is going to be a lot lower over the duration of this parliament that the government are banking on. Therefore, their tax receipts are lower. They're going to borrow more. Now, the impact of borrowing more, as I've already said, is you have to incentivize people to fund that debt. And the way you incentivize people to fund that debt is higher interest rates. If you supply more to get the demand to buy it, you're going to have to attract buyers. Who funds our debt? And this is where it gets quite interesting. There's a number of different ways sovereign debt is funded. At the moment, total outstanding government debt is just over £2 trillion.
Oh, God.
So that's your 100% nearly of the economy. The economy is about 2.1 trillion and debt is 2 trillion. There's basically buckets of who funds it. And the Bank of England, I can let you have the numbers, they publish this on a monthly basis. So if you look at the first bucket as such, it's local government, public corporations, private companies, households, and non-profits, so charities. In that bucket, they own very little sovereign debt, so they are irrelevant. There are four big owners of debt, the government debt. The first one is what the Bank of England term as monetary financial institutions. So you and I, banks. Now, the banks have to own a certain amount of regulatory capital. Today, and what they do in that regulatory capital is they park it in sovereign debt because apparently it's a risk-free asset. The government will always repay their debts. Today, there's 655 billion of regulatory capital owned by the banks in sovereign debt. That has been as high as £1 trillion during the COVID scam.
And that's a really funny relationship, because if the banks fail, the government bails them out with more debt.
Funny that.
It's just like this, I'll scratch your back, you scratch my back.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Like, we need to take debt, you hold the debt,
yeah.
And if you get into trouble, we'll give you the money back, and it's all going to be fine.
Yeah.
Everything's cushy.
Yeah. Yeah, they're one and the same, basically. I mean, who owns the banks in the UK? RBS is still owned by, the majority of RBS is still owned by the government.
Really?
Oh, yeah. 70-something% of RBS is still owned by the government. It's less of Lloyd's HBOS. I think it might be in the 20s or 30s. But they're the two big organisations that were bailed out, the banking organisations in the UK that were bailed out in the financial crisis in 2009. Yeah. They got bailed out. So the banks own a massive amount of sovereign debt. It has been higher, but they've been selling consistently for the last 3 years to get down to where they need to be, which is where they are today. So unless forced to, and that's the unknown here, but unless forced to, the banks are not going to be buying more sovereign debt. And we'll come back to this forced to point in a minute. The second big buyer of sovereign debt is insurance companies and pension funds. That's the second big bucket. They own £434 billion of debt. Now, they are mandated buyers. They are forced to buy sovereign debt because of this wrinkle called asset liability matching. Okay, your face is gone. Yeah, they are. Your pension fund and insurance companies are forced to buy, regulatorily forced.
That's
to buy
a complete
sovereign debt.
racket.
Yeah.
When you're forcing people to buy your debt, that's a racket.
Yeah, it's known as financial repression, basically. But they are mandated to buy. They're fairly static owners of this stuff, so it doesn't change very much. So they're not going to be buying anymore. Sorry, I'm going on a bit, but the third big bucket is other financial buyers. So this is investment funds and hedge funds. Now, they are very price-sensitive buyers. If they deem it a good investment, they'll buy it. If they deem it a bad investment, they'll sell the whole lot. They own 303 billion at the last reckoning, the last count up. Will they buy more? Well, that's an open question. They'll buy more if rates go high enough, but will they buy more today with rates at 4% on the 10-year bond? I don't know. But they'll be driven by market sentiment. And the fourth big buyer, and the only buyer who really has total discretion, are foreigners. So foreigners today fund about a third of our outstanding.
Who are these foreigners?
Foreigners. I mean, I don't think there's a classification below that.
No, I know, but I'm talking about, like, are we talking about foreign companies, foreign governments, foreign what?
Investment funds. Yes, it will be all of those. Foreign central banks, sovereign wealth funds. So, the Saudi sovereign wealth fund own bucket loads of all sorts of different assets, some of which will probably be UK sovereign debt. They're not subdivided on the Bank of England's website. They're just bucketed as foreigners.
Again, I wonder about the relationship between Saudi Arabia and the UK, in the sense that, the UK government hundreds of years ago went to the Saudis, who were nothing. They were just desert.
It wasn't hundreds of years ago. It was
150 years ago or something like that.
Oh, right, maybe, yeah.
They went, look, you desert little sheep, whatever, shepherds, we'll make you kings. But in return, what you need to do is do as we tell you. You're going to sell us your oil. We're going to refine it, mine it, and take 90% of it. You'll be rich, but we'll be even richer. You get to live a life of luxury. You'll have as many wives as you want.
Shame about your populations, but you'll be fine.
Yeah, shame about your populations. We don't give a fuck about that. You can go hard on them. You have to adopt this crazy religion called Wahhabism.
Mm-hmm.
You need to buy all of our arms. You need to buy all of our debt. And basically, you're going to fuel our economy. And in return, we'll look the other way when you chop people's heads off and kill them. And I think it's 300 people they killed this year in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, probably.
We'll look the other way. You'll be our best ally. We'll support you. Everyone will think, wow, the Saudis are great, and you can do your own shit and be tyrannical, and it doesn't matter. You will have the ultimate get out of jail card, but you need to buy our shit, spend all your money on our shit, our property,
and provide us with energy.
Yeah. And that's the cozy deal. And the Saudis go like, that's all right with me.
Yeah.
And the Brits are like, great, done deal, shake hands.
As we're talking about sovereign debt to keep this going, and in return, the money we pay you for your energy, you'll recycle back into our sovereign debt markets.
Exactly.
So it's another circle, another feedback loop as such.
Yep.
But what's happening now? Oh, there's a new guy in town called China. They don't have the moral qualms that you seem to have adopted in the West over our humanitarian policies. So we're just going to sell our oil to China. They don't care about it. In fact, their human rights record's worse than ours. They're exceeding us on that one. And by the way, we don't trust you anymore, sovereign debt suppliers in the West, because we look at what you did to Russia on the invasion of Ukraine, and what the Americans effectively did under their sanctions regime is steal $300 billion worth of Russian assets that were invested in US Treasury bonds. We don't trust you anymore.
Is that what they did?
Oh, yeah.
That's major financial theft and upsetting the rule-based order of the world.
The biggest.
The Americans are acting like criminals.
On the podcast I talked about this on the last podcast that didn't record.
Sorry.
Have you checked the mics?
Yes.
It's the most stupid financial decision the world has ever seen. for the Americans to sanction the Russian holdings of US Treasury bonds. Effectively, it was theft. And everyone, all dubious owners of American sovereign debt, have thought, hang on, we're not happy having all our money in a place that if we do something that's deemed wrong can be stolen.
Yeah.
Why do you think the gold price is at $2,700 an ounce? It's because, countries with an affinity, a historic affinity to gold, like Saudi Arabia, all the oil producers are thinking, well, we're not going to put all of our assets in treasury bonds anymore. We're going to buy another dollar-priced asset that we can keep in our own country, in our own vaults, and we know it has value. And that's a lot of what's driving the gold price up is buyers who don't trust the Americans anymore. Completely lost my train of thought now. Foreign buyers. So foreign buyers buy sovereign debt. So in the UK, our sovereign debt, because they want to preserve capital. Now,
what does that mean?
Not lose money.
Okay.
Because in theory, sovereign debt does not go down in value. In theory. But as a foreign buyer, and remember, these guys own a third of our outstanding national debt, they have another consideration to all the other holders, and that is the exchange rate. So if you're a Saudi buyer of UK debt, you are worried about the exchange rate between your country and our country. You've got another consideration, the FX market. What's going to happen to the value of the currency? Because you can have a bond that doesn't go down in value, but a currency that could plummet. And what they're worried about is the value of sterling. Any foreign buyer is worried about the competitiveness of the sterling value on the foreign exchange market. What sets the value of a currency? Well, there's a huge number of factors, but economic growth is one. We have a stagnant economy that is not growing, that is now overtaxed, over-indebted, and that is going to put pressure on sterling in the long run. So by pressure, I mean it's probably going to depress the value of sterling. We have also what drives the value of a currency is economic policy in the future. Communism does not tend to be good for foreign exchange values. I mean, what did the Russian ruble trade at under communism? Effectively zero. It didn't trade. Another factor that affects the value of the currency, trust and competence of the government. Discuss. I mean, they're not competent and I don't trust them. In short, the value of our currency is a barometer of trust in the UK. If you're a foreigner, how much do you trust the UK relative to another country? Because foreign exchange markets always trade relative. It's one currency versus the other. And this is what brings us on to Trump and what's happening over there. So if foreign exchange is a measure of our prosperity versus another country, and the most important other country in the world is still America, most goods and services internationally are trading in US dollars. That's changing, but very slowly. But the US dollar still dominates world trade. How trustworthy are we under a creeping communist regime relative to a country that had that or was going down that slope and has now turned and is looking like it's going to become more capitalist again, go back to its roots? In the long run, what I'm saying is sterling is likely to fall in value relative to the dollar. And that changes everything.
How does that change everything?
Why would foreigners, who are the only group of people who can buy our increasing debt load, why are they going to buy it at the current rates?
Okay.
They're not.
They're not.
How does that impact you and I? Mortgage rates. The mortgage rate in the UK is priced off the sovereign debt market. So this is not going to happen overnight, but the problem is we have to attract buyers to our increasing debt pile. The way we're going to do that is offer a higher return, i.e. a higher rate. And the most important domestic interest rate, mortgage rates, is priced off the sovereign debt market. What happens when mortgage rates go up? Economic growth tends to contract. So you can see all this is building into a vicious circle of decline until something changes. Now, if you look at America, they've just had that change. And all the caveats, do we trust these people? We don't like the influence, the Israel influence. We don't like the tech bro influence. But the reality is that election has just put a spanner in the works of the totalitarian woke takeover of America, in my opinion. I actually think, having lived and worked in the financial world for 30 odd years now, that election result is the most important inflection point since the fall of the Berlin Wall, which was a massive inflection point in economics of the West. Is Trump going to succeed? I don't know. But on the margin, they're going to become more capitalistic. They're going to cut waste. They're going to become more capitalist. They're highly likely to create more economic growth than us. So that makes them a more attractive place for capital to go. Capital goes where it's best treated, unless it's stopped from going there, which is probably where we're going in the UK. Increasing amounts of regulation, increasing amounts of mandates, forcing capital that should be backing free enterprise into funding the government. And that is the big worry. Where we're falling into a vicious circle of economic decline, I think America is now coming out of that, and it's going to be in a virtuous circle of economic expansion. Why do I say that? Well, look at the people that Trump has collected around him, a band of misfits, basically. But the things they all have in common is a lot of them are very successful people. You can debate how they got their success, but they don't need to be doing this. I mean, Musk could sit on the beach for the rest of his life. So could Vivek Ramaswamy. They are incredibly wealthy people. Kennedy could sit back and write another book and make a fortune again. These are people who don't need to be doing this, but I don't know why they're doing it, but probably out of patriotism, they are trying to improve America. And the one that really matters in an economy, the policy that matters is energy.
So can I just quickly stop for a second before you talk about energy? I could say they're doing devil's advocate. They're doing what they're doing because that's their role. So
possibly
a lot of these people, I question whether they are these self-made entrepreneurial geniuses that we're told, these Tony Starks from Iron Man who are just amazing. I'm thinking a lot more of them are actually security, state, intelligence-backed assets. They've been told, do you know what? We've got so many billions. We want to create a company that does this and this and this. You're going to be the front man. And you're going to be very rich in the process. You just need to do A, B, C, D, and just keep following orders. And I think a lot of it is that.
Show me the proof.
I know.
So, all right, I'll give you a name.
No, I'm just saying. So I'm just wondering, like, a lot of these people, maybe they're doing what they're doing because that's the next part. I mean, you hear Elon talking about transhumanism and putting chips in people's brains, and he's pretty goes on about that out there, digital ID and blah blah. And someone was saying to me, it's almost like they will give us some things like, vaccines, are bad or whatever, and they'll throw some things out of the way, but that's the old control mechanisms. And what they'll do is they'll replace it with new tech control mechanisms, giving us the idea that actually it's a great thing. We got rid of this horrible old stuff, but now you've got this new shiny stuff that actually is cool. And everybody will be like, great. So digital ID and transhumanism and chips and paying with little, implanted things in our hands and waving it like that, It's just a new control mechanism that's being installed, and it's being installed with the cool team, the dream team. So everyone's like, yay, totally on board with this.
That's the risk. If that happens, I was wrong and we're completely fucked.
Yeah.
But we're completely fucked at the moment anyway. So why not at least live in hope that these people are real and serious about this? I mean,
the only reason why I'm saying is to just be vigilant. So what I'm trying to say is, don't, like I keep saying to people, just don't put all your eggs in the basket that these people are saviors, are going to save us. We ultimately need to save ourselves. Like, for example, don't wait for Trump to introduce a team to make America healthy again. You can make yourself healthy right now.
Yeah.
With the decisions and choices you make.
That's fine. You can make yourself healthy. You're healthy. I hope, touch wood, I'm healthy. You can do that at an individual level.
But you can't change tax. You can't change your wealth. Yeah.
But, I mean, behind you, you've got the book, The Real Anthony Fauci.
Yeah.
Is that man a fraud that wrote that?
No. That was pretty solid.
He's in the administration. Head of Health and Human Services, I think it is, isn't it? Director of HHS. Jay Bhattacharya.
Yeah.
You're shaking your head. Why? I mean, the guy signed the Great Barrington Declaration. Was that a fraud?
I'll tell you why. So the Great Barrington Declaration validated the pandemic.
But ultimately they were right.
I know.
Not the pandemic, but they...
But it validated the pandemic. And I was at a Together Declaration meeting where Jay Bhattacharya, Alan Miller and Asim Hotjar were on the panel.
Mm.
And they talked about how essentially everything that's gone wrong was incompetence. They validated there was a pandemic, that there were good people trying to do the right thing, and it was incompetence that led us to where we were. And I was very upset about that. And I said, if this is incompetence, it's the most competent form of incompetence I've ever seen in my life, and the most synchronized, orchestrated, inline, global incompetence. No, I think this is a fundamentally criminal act. And while many of the actors didn't know what they were doing, and were making mistakes, it was being driven and guided, and it was planned, and the audience kind of agreed with me. And I never ever forgot the fact that Jay and Nassim were like shaking their heads and going, no, it's incompetence, there's no bad people out there, it's not like that.
So maybe he's wrong on that. Maybe he changes his mind.
I mean, because where do you stand in that?
Oh, I totally agree with you. I mean, I said in the last podcast, which you didn't record, have you checked the mics?
Yeah.
I mean, when you said, what would you do with these people? I mean, I said, they've got to face the full force of the law. In other words, I said, actually, we've got to hang the bastards. If you remember, I said that. I mean, I totally agree with you.
You said that. Yeah.
But
do you see what I mean?
No. Everything comes with caveats.
And then it comes with, like, how many of these people are limited hangout? How many people, like, these grand masters who planned and premeditated what happened, okay? Like, just think about it, all these Gulf of Tonkin. If you listen to Brad Miller's podcast,
it's all...
Brad Miller talks about this lieutenant colonel in the army.
Mm-hmm.
He was in charge of a brigade of the American 101st Airborne Division, that famous division. And he's a proper patriot. And he goes, look, Ahmed, I've discovered, like, everything. Vietnam, Gulf of Tonkin, Project Artichoke, Mockingbird, Midnight Climax, the Gulf War, 1 and 2, all of these 9/11 false flags. Our governments have planned this. They've orchestrated this. And COVID was the same. You think these people who plan decades in advance, who have these agendas and are so high level, manipulating how we as a society perceive things, place their actors and pawns and develop them over years and years. You think they don't have contingency plans? You don't think they have an idea, okay, we will provide the opposition, we will provide the dissenting voices, because we can't have any natural grassroots dissenting voice that is not in our control. We will create the opposition, because that will be in our control. We will create the thesis, the antithesis, and and out of that you get whatever. So maybe, I'm just saying, maybe they had planned everything in advance. Like,
so do you think they planned Trump? Do you think they planned him to win in 2016?
Honestly, I'm not sure, but I wouldn't put it past them. And
I think that's...
I'll give an example. Like, for example, the latest election was such a ridiculous farce of an election. Like, Kamala didn't even win any primary. She was just appointed because
Biden was...
So Biden was fit and healthy.
And then he was not.
And then, demented, doubly incontinent, wins this primaries, and then suddenly exits stage left, and stage right comes in Kamala, and it's like this, shrieking donkey that just dies on the election day. Like, that wasn't a choice. And then the media kept playing fake, opposition, but you had the dream team coming out. And it's like, honestly, like, where did the 20 million fake ballots go? Like, and what I'm trying to say is, like, do you not put it past? Can you not imagine that the intelligence services, the people behind everything, decide, right, Team A today, now let's engineer for Team B? Because the reality is they need to do that. They need to give us hope because they want us to play the system. If Kamala came into power, we would all have just said, sod this, we're not playing. And the reality is,
but you've just said, sod this, we're not playing under Trump.
I know, but
that's what you've just said.
But most people haven't. Most people aren't like me.
See, I think if
most people will still choose to play in the team if they think there's a chance that their guy is a good guy.
Yeah, I think that's probably where I am. If this was deep state,
but that gives them the power. You see, it keeps us playing at the roulette, throwing our chips in, no matter how deep we are in debt. Thinking, there's a chance. If you're there at that casino and you know there's no hope in hell that you're ever going to win, you know what? You walk out. You go like, there's no point. But if there's even a little chance that, you know what, you just might win, you stay in the game.
So where are you going to walk out to in this scenario?
Good question.
If this was completely controlled by the deep state, Ben Shapiro would have been the Democrat candidate for president. Because he would have beaten Trump.
You think so?
Yeah.
Ben Shapiro.
Yeah. I think it's definitely a Shapiro. If I got the wrong Shapiro.
You're talking about that little young guy who speaks like 100 million miles an hour?
I might have the wrong name there. There's definitely a Shapiro who is a governor of...
Oh, it's not Ben Shapiro. You're thinking of a social media guy.
Oh, it's not Ben Shapiro then.
No.
Is there another Shapiro who's a governor of a state? Or it would have been Gavin Newsom.
Is it Josh Shapiro?
Josh Shapiro.
I think it's John. It's not Ben.
Yeah,
all
Josh. Right. Or it would have been Gavin Newsom. It would have been... They had credible candidates who would have probably won that election, probably won it, or run it a lot closer.
So exactly. So why didn't they?
Because they can't control Trump and they can't control the people.
No, but why didn't they run these other guys who would have won?
I don't know. I don't know.
There's your $1 million question.
Yeah.
Why did they run a lame, dead donkey?
Well, because Biden confirmed Harris as the candidate because he was allegedly so pissed off with what had happened. He went ahead and confirmed her, and then they couldn't go back on it.
Come on, it's just all theatre. It's all theatre.
So what's your answer then?
I know what you're saying, but my answer is like if everybody literally went, you know what, not voting, not playing with this game, that just destroys the mandate of this government.
But hasn't it? But that's in this country. In that country, they had an alternative.
Did they?
Well, as far as we know, they had an alternative.
Jill Stein Green Party. No, I don't think so.
I mean,
there's never really any choice.
So you're running the white flag up?
I'm not running the white flag up. I'm just saying.
You just have.
I think voting. I'm in the camp that if voting makes no difference, if it did, they wouldn't let us do it. It'd be illegal.
So what?
But I want to be wrong.
What has to happen?
I want to be wrong.
Yeah, no, I want you to be wrong.
I want to be wrong.
I think
what has to happen? I think what has to happen.
What has to happen to make you think actually this is real?
Good question. Do you know what? I'll tell you exactly what will happen. So I'll just read out, for example, recently they've just published. I'll read it out to you. The Select Committee on the Coronavirus Pandemic, Chairman Brad Wenstrup, right? When that and it was a complete whitewash and limited hangout. Complete whitewash.
I know nothing about it.
Yeah. So what would make me realize that actually, no, we're dealing with the real deal is, for example, when they go, no, Operation Warp Speed wasn't a success. Because right now they're still saying it. This subcommittee, they said it's a success. Trump said it's a success. So when they go, I'm going to answer now. Operation Warp Speed was a disaster. It wasn't a success. Fauci is a criminal. Peter Danzig's a criminal. They're going to jail forever. We're throwing away the keys.
Fauci can't go to jail.
Listen, I'm just telling you.
Do you know why?
No,
I read it this morning.
I know, but I'm telling you. Fauci, Gates, head of Moderna, head of Pfizer, head of all the people who lied, they all go to jail. Heads of CDC's dismantled. CDC is actually not even a government organization, it's a private organization. God, we didn't even know this, right? CDC is dismantled. They're the FDA, the Federal Reserve is not audited.
Yep.
It's disbanded. It's broken up.
End the Fed. Yeah.
End the Fed. Not audit the Fed.
Yeah.
End the Fed.
What are you going to replace it with?
I know. We'll come to that. I'm being serious.
Yeah. No.
And then what else? For the American government to withdraw slowly over 10-year all its military bases.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe keep like 3 abroad or something. End the occupation of Germany. All right. Because it is.
Yeah.
It is occupying Germany.
Yeah, sure.
Stop funding ISIS and all the Muslim fundamentalists.
Both sides of every war.
Yeah. Both sides of every war. Lock up all these bankers who've created, contracted, and expanded all this financial crises and benefited and profited from them, and redistribute that wealth to the sovereign funds. That kind of stuff, that would be a good start for me. That would be a good start.
That would be a good end for me.
And also, destroy government in the sense of, it's 5% of what we know it to be, but not overnight. Like, it has to be done a controlled plan over 15 years, because humanity's become so lazy, so dependent, so it hasn't used its muscles, economic muscles, physical muscles, mental muscles of freedom. We need to gently wean them back in, because if you pull the plug, the life support, there'll be chaos. People are just not used to working, not used to thinking, not used to being adventurous and taking risks. And they're just being nanny coddled so long. They've been sucking on the breast of government. They don't know how to go out and get their own food and fend for themselves. So we need to slowly teach them that. And we need to stop indoctrinating at schools. We need everything to be decentralized, currency to be decentralized. So instead of one central bank, government bank, regional banks owned by cooperatives and people, and you know what? You can pay in any currency that you value. Like in America, there used to be lots of different currencies and thousands of different banks.
Did in this country.
Proper free market capitalism, right? Choice.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see. If that starts happening, if Trump starts to do this, fucking great. And if also, last comment, one thing that I'm seeing a lot in the Trump camp is this promotion of this idea of Judeo-Christian values against the big bad Muslims, and the bad Russians and the Chinese. Actually, no, stop all that. Stop building up clash of civilizations and division and hatred. All humans are actually the same, regardless of color, creed, ethnicity, religion. But there's merit. Some people work harder than others. Some societies are now more ahead than others. But it kind of comes and goes in cycles. Just, stop thinking you're better than other people and justifying bombing and killing other people over bullshit reasons. That for me would be a good start.
So lot of that.
I'm done.
A lot of that.
And the mic's still working.
Excellent. I was going to check. A lot of that has been talked about by the Trump camp. Now, that's words. You want to see actions. I want to see actions. I'm prepared to think. The reality is we have to hope, and I know hope's not a strategy, but we have to hope they're going to deliver. Because if they don't, the alternative is too grim to think about. The alternative is we're going to have to move to Argentina, where all that is starting to happen.
Who else is in the Trump camp that gives you hope? What else have you got in your notes?
So Chris Wright, someone you've never heard of.
Never.
Okay, I was going to talk about this energy policy. So Chris Wright he's going to be the energy secretary if he's confirmed. He's a mechanical engineer. He's an electrical engineer. He's founded 2 energy companies. He's on the board of a nuclear reactor company. So this guy knows energy. Okay? We have Ed Miliband.
Yeah, not good, is it?
Ed Miliband studied PPE, but found the philosophy too hard, so dropped it and ended up with a degree in economics. So at least he's got a degree in economics, unlike the Chancellor. Energy policy is the cornerstone of any economy.
So that'd be another place to start. So if they said, right, we're not subsidizing the green agenda, we're not doing solar panels anymore, windmill turbines are going to stop, we're going to invest money in nuclear reactors, safe ones, the technology has moved on 50 years, we haven't built them for 30, 40 years, a lot has fucking happened since then. We can make them softer and safer and smaller. And, let's go, baby.
We are building nuclear reactors. It just takes 25 years to build them.
We're building them here?
Yeah, there's building Hinkley Point 3 at the moment.
Are they?
Yeah. funded by the French and the Chinese.
I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
I don't know how, it's about 10 or 15 years into its construction and it won't come online for another 5. That's the problem. The Chinese knock up nuclear power stations in about 3 years. So that's what we need. It's back to the regulation point. But you're absolutely right. Yeah.
And I'd also argue, a degree in economics is bullshit, because economics today, I don't believe, is taught properly. Economics today justifies the whole fiat currency system, the whole Keynesian.
Yeah.
It's not Austrian economics. It's not sound based. It's just basically justifying the bullshit banking casino that we see that's going on. That's what economics is.
Totally agree with you.
You're not allowed to agree with me.
I am. This is not confrontational. Just remember, there are good bits of banking. There are good bits of the fiat regime.
Okay.
You wouldn't have society today without the banking system.
No, I agree. Ed Griffiths,
Griffin. Yeah.
Ed Griffin. I'm thinking of Michael Griffiths.
Yeah.
Ed Griffin came on and he said to me, like, we need banks.
Yeah.
Banks are great, Ahmed. Yeah. I'm not saying get rid of banks.
Yeah.
He actually made that clear.
I agree with him.
I agree too. It's the central bank. That's the thing. Like, why does a government need to borrow money from anyone else and pay interest on it? Think about it. If you're the government, if it's your money, like if you borrow money from yourself, are you pay yourself interest? I mean,
I always do.
What the fuck? I'm just saying, like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, you go, right, I've got £20 in my cupboard. I'm going to take that money out. I need to spend it on something, but I'm going to put £20 back. I don't go, I'm going to put £25 back. I mean, it's ridiculous. Even the treasury bonds, like, that doesn't even make sense. They're buying the treasury bonds off the Federal Reserve. And then,
but if you had a government that wasn't, if we had a government in a country that wasn't living beyond its means, you wouldn't need a treasury bond market, because you wouldn't need to raise excess debt to fill that gap in the.
We should live within our means.
Live within our means. It's down to living within our means, and when we do,
delayed gratification,
responsibility, and accountability.
Yeah,
they're the 2 things that are missing. So I'm not as negative until proven otherwise.
Am I negative?
Yeah, very.
Oh shit! Really?
Well, no. The reality is,
I think I'm realistic, and I'm wary.
Wary is good.
I'm not negative. I'm not black-pilled. I believe in hope, and I want to see. But I feel
hope
like
is not a strategy.
I know, but I also believe in personal agency and responsibility, and the fact that it's too many people. I know too many people just want to park all that. They don't want to do the hard work. They just want, our savior's here. It's fine. Everything.
Sorry.
And I'm just basically saying, don't have that philosophy. Take steps now, like avoiding debt, avoiding overconsumption.
Yeah,
that's kind of stuff I'm talking about.
But human nature, people want things for nothing and they want it now.
Yes,
that's one of the problems.
Yes,
and that's great until the system breaks, and we're at breaking point in the UK. And America is at breaking point, and they look like, with all the caveats, they're going to do something about it. A country that did break is Argentina, and they have done something about it. So the reality is, if we do nothing in the UK, we're going to get in an Argentinian situation, and we're going to break. And then, believe me, the shit show will be bad.
Maybe things have to break before you get
Well,
back.
Maybe. But America have put the brake on the system, hopefully put the brake on the system now, and hopefully they're doing something about it. And the reality is, people are going to realise, if that works over there, they're going to look across the pond and they're going to think, they're better off than we are. I've got some numbers on my phone, I won't call it up, but the average income in the UK today is something like $45,000. I'm putting it in dollars for a reason. The poorest state in America is Wyoming, and the average income is $51,000.
Oh, wow.
So we are already, as a nation, worse off than the poorest state in America.
Oh, shit.
Now, if they grow, those incomes will go up. We shrink, our incomes are going down. At what point do people think, this is fracked?
And it's worse than that. I'll come to that in a second, but it's about quality of life. So your dollar in America takes you a lot further. Like, you can buy a house for a fraction of the price over here. That's
a function of the fact they build shit houses made out of wood, and they don't have a problem with scarcity of land.
Okay.
That's the function there. So I wouldn't read too much into that one.
But I'm just saying, like, for like $500,000, you could buy a big property and a nice house somewhere in the sticks. Whereas over here, you buy a shed.
Yeah, but there's the sheds as well because they're mostly made out of wood. That's why they all fall over when the wind blows and they get hurricanes. The one thing we have to sort out, which we can sort out, is within our gift, is energy policy.
Right, we'll talk about that in a sec. I need to go for a pee.
Yeah.
You do. You got a massive bladder. I don't. Dude, the last one didn't record. I'm joking.
Third time lucky. You know what I'm going to say?
What?
Are they on?
What?
The microphone.
What about them?
Are they working?
Yeah, they're working. Just,
Are you sure?
Just, oh, for goodness sake, just shut up. What do you think of the story I just told you?
I actually don't know what to think about it because I've never. Am I allowed to mention what you just told me? No, I won't.
No, I'll leave it.
Yeah. No, mind blown.
Mind blowing, isn't it?
Yeah, mind blown. A podcast in that.
Never knock it, mate. Never knock it.
Never
Never
knock
say
it till you tried it.
Yeah, never say never.
I ain't gonna try it anytime soon.
The funny thing is, I was also told that I need to be a guide, and next time I'll be the guide. So, you never know. It might be.
You don't want to say too much more.
Yeah.
People will know what we've been talking about.
Yeah. Anyway, let's go. Crack on. What were you going to say?
So
you worked out some shit.
I worked out some
while
shit.
I was taking the longest pee ever.
The difference between you and I, you're looking at the world as it is, and the momentum in the world as it is today. I come from a world where I have to look forward. You make investment returns about what's going to happen in the future, not what's happening today.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore you look for inflection points in the current status quo. And I think we're at a number of inflection points now, the biggest of which is the US and the election.
When you say inflection points, what do you mean by that?
Significant turning points.
Turning, that's what I meant.
A turning
like
point.
inflection like that, like so, where things will change.
Yeah.
Forks in the road, basically. But, rather than same,
yeah,
you've got a different choice now.
A reason. Things are going to go in the opposite direction. And I mean, I guess if the early indicator was Argentina, as we mentioned earlier. Now it's America. As we speak, could it be France? Because the French government have fallen overnight.
Have they?
Yep. French government's gone.
I didn't know that.
Turfed out. So I don't know quite.
So Macron's not in power?
Macron's president.
Okay.
Barnier, who's prime minister, is out. Is that a turning point in France? We've had them across Europe for the last couple of years. If you look at Poland, Hungary, Italy, I don't know if they're inflection points. You probably don't know until you look back 3 years later and think, that was when everything changed. So what that means is I'm looking forward and I'm hopeful of change. And you're looking at the status quo thinking, this is knackered. It's not going to change. One of us is going to be right. And I bloody hope it's me, because if you're right, we're fracked. We're going to own nothing and be happy.
Unhappy.
Yeah, unhappy. But I'll be living in Argentina.
Will you?
I guess there's a tipping point where it gets that bad.
Now you know why my dad moved to this country.
Yeah.
Now you know why migrants come here.
Yeah.
Things are so bad, they just cannot put up with it anymore.
I agree with that to a point.
And how will it be, though? But how will it be with regards to transferring any money or wealth that you have? Like, will they let you leave here? If you got gold coins, will they let you go and take your gold? Do you know what I mean? It's going to be tough, man.
No comment.
Why'd you say no comment?
No.
What?
Crypto.
Oh.
Crypto's the modern day escape valve.
You think so?
Definitely. At the moment, under the current rules of the game. I mean, if I were to own something like Bitcoin today, I could go to New York on the next flight and access that Bitcoin and convert it to fiat currency over there and live. And there's nothing they can do to stop me. Can't pick my house up and go, can I? Can't pick any land or property I own up and go. You just have to abandon that. But it gets to a point where you have to go, which is why we have 2,500 people trying to get into Monaco. They have deemed it worthy of leaving.
So what would change to make you think, right, this frog has been slowly boiled enough. Now is the point. What's the boiling point for you when you go, right, I'm leaving?
To be honest, I'm so invested in this country, I probably wouldn't leave. I'd stay and fight. I'm the idiot who'll be on the barricades. You will as well.
When you say fight, what does that mean?
I think it's going to be a progression, isn't it, if it gets that bad? We fight at the ballot box. I mean, that's the other interesting thing about America. If you assume that regime was totalitarian over there, it was becoming more and more totalitarian, as our regime here is becoming more and more totalitarian. They have potentially just turned it round with a democratic process. And I don't think that's ever happened before. Normally, totalitarianism has to be reversed through unrest.
What happens if what you were offered was hardcore, blatant totalitarianism? The second option was soft totalitarianism, which on the surface is very comfortable and cool.
Yeah, but the latter always becomes the former.
Exactly. Give it time.
Give it time. The only difference there is time. What, 5 years? By 2030 in this country, if we don't stop it, if people don't wake up to it. I think a lot of people were so lied to at that last election. I mean, you think of the client groups who've been let down.
So, I actually think this last election was engineered too. So what I mean by that is Andrew Bridgen sat opposite you, told me there's going to be an election before it happened, told me that Rishi Sunak, who's got this majority, who didn't need to call an election, does not want to be a wartime prime minister. Does not want. That's scary. Right?
Touch wood. That war hasn't accelerated yet.
Not yet.
Not going to say it's not going to.
Not yet. Give it time, man. Yeah. So Andrew Bridgen said Rishi Sunak's going to hand over the baton.
I remember him. I've watched that one.
To Keir Starmer, right? He's the next WEF stooge puppet who's going to be like, all right, thanks for the baton. No worries. Leave it with me. Yeah. Cheers, mate. And part of the whole democracy thing is, the teams, you have to give each team a little chance that, that they're making a difference and give them, and it's just a different way of getting the same end goal. End result. Right? Yeah. Okay. Manifestos all get ripped up straight away and it's back to, all right, what were the WEF agendas? Right? And so now you've got Rishi Sunak out with that whomping majority. And then you got Keir Starmer in with a huge majority, but with no increase in the vote.
A fall. 2 million less votes than Corbyn lost with. Yeah.
There you go. So he got 20% of the vote. And so the reason why I want to show you it's how it's engineered is Conservatives are still going to win. But remember, the powers that be that control everything were like, nah, Conservatives have had their time. It's time for Labour. Well, the stupid public aren't doing what we're telling them. They're not voting for Labour. They hate Labour. They despise Labour. Only 20% of people are going to vote for them. How do we get Labour in? Oh, do you know what? Let's resurrect the Reform Party. Let's get the leader back in. Let's whip that one up. Let's get the Tory base divided. Some of them, the disenchanted, the ones that are true conservatives and have given up on conservative. Let's get them to vote for reform. Split the vote. And that way, great. Labour's a shoo-in.
But I don't think the Tories would have won anyway.
Really?
Yeah. They were never getting back in.
I doubt it.
Reform didn't help them, but they didn't decide the election.
I think so.
No.
They took like...
No. All that red wall where I live,
yeah,
that was all going back to Labour. Clearly going back to Labour. Reform didn't make any difference there. They might do in the next one. I don't know. I think what happens in the next election, because I'm looking forward, you're looking at the status quo, I'm looking forward. We've got to be optimistic. We've got to think there's going to be change. Else it's all over. And you may want your utopian small government, no government state. It's not going to happen in our lifetimes.
No.
And actually, is that the answer? I don't think an anarchistic state, and using the word anarchy in its true sense of the meaning, I don't think that's the answer.
No, I don't mean get rid of all government. Yeah. There'll be so basically, I've mapped it out in my head. I think I quite like this. You've got localism. So you've got local regions that are, and local people's assemblies, where people are brought into term, and that it's by your communities. Like, have they been successful in life? No career politicians, no bureaucrats. People who've genuinely been successful in business and life have an invested interest in that community. One of the things that, for example, in Switzerland, they have all these cantons. So like we have cantons here. And so, for example, also, if you want to be a citizen of a canton, you need to have lived in the same town or village for 10 years. If you move from, like, for example, High Wycombe to Beaconsfield, you start all over again. You need to be in that one place, part of the community, being involved in it to become a citizen. That is amazing. I love that. The idea of that localism and community building. So you have these local canton type regions here in this country. You have local assemblies. And then what you do is the local assemblies will send their representative to a national level. And it's not a national government. It's an assembly of the local leaders and representatives who then decide foreign policy, or, that's it, basically, foreign policy.
But is that not a recipe? I get what you're saying.
And defense of the country. And each region sets its own tax rates. It's autonomous. Schools, hospitals are all run by communities, co-ops, charities, non-profit. They're not run by the government. They're not legislated. There's no legislation, right? It's just, you don't have that nonsense. You have rules and law, but they're based on like natural law, common law. The Constitution of America was a great first draft, but it didn't work because the whole point was to protect the states, which were like independent countries, from the federal government. But you've seen what happened over the last 200 years. I mean, it's being a complete inversion. So the Constitution didn't actually work in the end. It didn't strip the powers, stop the powers at the federal level.
The federal level became too big, too dominant.
Yeah, so it failed. It failed. We need that kind of constitution, and even more robust at local community levels.
That's great.
And then you have, theory. And then what you also have is market competition, because if one local canton is doing really well, great for low taxation and values and civic order, people are going to live there, and people are going to move there. Places that don't do well and are not
are going to invade.
Yeah, okay.
That's where it falls over.
Who's going to invade?
Well, Beaconsfield is going to invade because what's your next door town? Can't remember.
High Wycombe.
High Wycombe's doing really well because of their low tax rate. Beaconsfield don't like that. Nah. And they've got a higher class of thugs, so they just send them over to smash the place up.
No. And that's because everyone's going to learn jiu-jitsu. Everyone's going to have the right to bear arms. You're going to have...
Now, that I agree with.
No, seriously.
I know that I agree with.
Everyone's going to have the right to bear arms.
Yeah.
You're going to have,
So it's outright war.
Yeah. So you're going to have... No, you're going to have militias and local cantons will have their own... And, you don't want to wage war. It will not be in anyone's interest.
Well, of course it will. Because Gerrard's Cross is going to... They're going to team up with Beaconsfield because they've had enough of High Wycombe. And No, you're living in your utopian society. There has to be a minimum level of, I hate to say it, but control from the top.
I disagree.
Minimum level, which is a lot smaller than it is now.
So I'll give an example. Like the Hanseatic state. These were all like cities and regions, and they all got on. And what they did, they didn't fight amongst each other because they knew about mutual cooperation and mutual benefit. And it was not in their interest to be fighting amongst each other. It was better to collaborate and get together. And actually, they invaded other countries and defended themselves against oppressors. And
so you're not going to fight amongst each other, but you are going to invade other. Beaconsfield's going to invade France.
No, I don't believe in invading. But I'm just saying, if someone threatened, for example, these islands,
you have a self-defense policy.
You have a self-defense policy. That's what I mean. You're like, don't look. Do no harm.
Yeah,
but take no shit.
I think your system works if everyone is like you.
But
the sad reality is, not everyone is as level-headed as you.
But then that's why I come back to, you can complain about all the despots and the evil cabal, but fundamentally, our lot will never improve and humanity will never transcend until we get our shit together. That's as simple as that.
And what you're saying is you don't think we can get our shit together under the current system?
Yeah, I think...
You don't think we can change the current system?
Yeah, I don't think we can change the current system because not enough people are taking personal responsibility and agency and aren't getting their shit together and are fucking lazy and dumb as shit.
Yeah.
And so my focus is, forget Trump and Vance and Starmer. We we the people, unless we sort out our shit,
Mhm.
nothing's going to get better. Nothing's going to change. And the whole point of my podcast is trying to educate people, take power, take responsibility, take sovereignty. Because you know what? If all of us are brilliant, the top will be as well.
Yeah. But what you're...
Bottom up is what I'm trying to do, rather than top down.
Everyone's too comfortable at the moment.
Exactly.
Which is why a crisis, if it comes, is a good thing. It's bad at the time, but it's a good thing in the long run.
Honestly, I'm with you on that.
You
one.
agree with me on that one?
I'm with you. Like, so you know when you say the shit's gonna get, I'm kind of like thinking, do you know what?
Bring it on.
Fucking bring it on, man.
Yeah.
I just told you about my recent experience.
Yeah.
There was a lot of joy and positivity, but it had to go through pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
This is life, mate.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, all those guys out there who are busy, sucking cherry vapes and watching TikTok videos, they're in for a rude awakening, and they fracking need it, man. They need that slap on the face.
Which is where... So this is why I think the current system can be improved, because if you look at the evidence, what you're describing is exactly what's happened in Argentina. And the key ingredient you're missing is leadership.
Mm.
Almost a benign dictator who's doing it for patriotic, common good reasons.
I'll sign up.
You'll sign up.
I'll do it.
You're leading.
What?
You're on the first chariot.
Yeah.
But that's what it takes.
Yeah.
I actually think the current regime, I hope the current regime, I don't want to rescue all of it, but if we can keep the best bits.
What are the best bits?
That's a good question.
No, I mean, it's like, what?
Yeah. Well, maybe it's that bad. You have to have a common police force. You have to have a common military deterrence.
So why does it have to be common? I think it has to be community.
That's what I mean. Community deterrence. Yes, community deterrence. But yeah, we have to defend the islands.
100%.
In one, it has to be all the little individual communities you're talking about have to have a common purpose and goal.
100%.
And defence is one of those.
So take for example, if you've got all these counties and cantons and they've got their own force, own brigade. So it's not like in the past, the British Army, you would have the Scottish Regiment and it would be drawn from Scots in that area. You'd have local people providing the manpower. And they took pride. This is our patch.
Yep.
We are coming from. Now it's all a mixed bag. Everybody's coming from different areas, and regiments or from wherever. So you're not rooted to any.
There's no camaraderie.
Loyalty. You want loyalty to you want, for example, the police to be living in the community they're policing. You want to be able to say, "Hey, Bill, that Dick Darren stole my bike. Can you go fucking have a chat?
Can you go to Beaconsfield and get it back?"
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, but if you know your community and everyone is in that community and stays in that community, they know they're not going to steal from people they know. Like when you get to know people, you tend to like them more, and you tend to not want to do bad things to them. Right? We need to get to the point where we understand each other again.
But that's going to take generations.
And so, okay, but the police needs to be local, the armies need to be local, and the armies then go, right, we do a national training several times a year where all the different groups get together. They appoint a chief general from one of the top cantons, but normally it's all decentralized. And actually, there's a lot of strength that comes out of decentralization.
Totally. Yeah.
Because it's like, which snake head are you going to chop off? Like, there's all these different snakes. And you're going to be stronger militarily. You're going to be stronger economically if you have this like very decentralized structure with real market capitalism, competition going on, choice, variety. Because what happens is everyone will up their game. But I know you're saying, then Highway Commission is going to raid. No, actually, what it does, it forces everyone to up their game.
But that's great. But how do you fund that? How do you share the cost of that? How does Beaconsfield have a navy? Landlocked Beaconsfield. How do they contribute to the navy?
Maybe they don't.
So it's down to Portsmouth to fund the Navy at vast expense. The capital infrastructure involved in that is a massive cost.
I know, but you know another thing? Why do you need a Navy? Do you know why you need a Navy?
Because we're an island.
I know, no. But you know, the Navy that we have historically has been power projection.
That's yeah, absolutely right.
Control of the waterways and dominating and colonizing other countries.
Because we were an empire.
You don't exactly need that many.
But who funds the boats that defend the channel?
Okay.
Or are we not going to defend the channel?
We
don't today. So.
Exactly. We do defend it, and maybe there'll be a pot of money and we agree.
So you need this level of infrastructure.
Okay, but maybe we agree. So this is the people's assemblies, and they vote on this, and people say, hey, are you happy giving some of your money towards it? And everybody goes, yeah, but it's accountability. It's like we have proper representation. You do not have political parties. You have individuals who are appointed on assemblies who represent their people, not a political party.
And the representative of Birmingham, because it's completely landlocked, is told by his constituents, we are not funding the Navy.
Fine.
Yeah, but is that fine?
Yeah, we'll work it out.
How?
I don't know. Not right now. I don't know. But it'll be worked out somehow. They'll understand the need for it and how it will benefit them. Because if there isn't a Navy and then people come over and invade, ultimately Birmingham's going to suffer.
It's too bloody late then.
I know, but this is what...
Attila the Hun has just come over the channel. This is what I mean
by educating people. If you raise the society so that they're actually educated, involved, and active participants, you're comparing it with the current generation who are like, what's on TikTok? Where's my cherry vape? You know, I'm talking about raising society. So one of the big things I would do, for example, if I was a benevolent leader, is to raise every human being on this country, to make them strong, to make them intelligent, to give them responsibility, and to make them have courage and bravery to make the right decisions and choices.
But I want this to happen now.
What's happening right now in our Western societies is a race to the bottom. How do we dumb down our citizens? How do we make them sick and docile and compliant and manipulatable? That's even a word. You know, just that's our current regime's attitude towards the citizenship. And my attitude is the complete opposite. Make everyone a leader.
But I want this to happen now, in the next year or two.
Good luck. It's not going to happen.
Well, but this is what I'm saying. If you look, what you need is tough love. You need to go the Argentine. If you want things to change now, you go the Argentinian model. You know, day one, he got rid of 9 government departments. I don't mean he laid people off.
Did he?
He cut 9 government departments out completely.
What would you cut out?
Oh, where would you start? Education. That's something that should be decentralised, back to counties. So you don't have an education policy, it's set at the local level. That's one straight away. Argentina, I think I'm right in saying, have just got rid of their inland revenue. Because they have simplified the tax code so much, they've realised they don't need an inland revenue. I'm sure I read that.
Wow.
You know, if you look at tax code in this country, I think the tax code is many, many thousands of pages. I want to say 17,000 pages.
Yeah, you're right. It has.
And
Javier Milei abolishes the Argentinian IRS.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if you simplify the tax code down to something that everyone understands.
Oh, no, by the way, it's not really. He has reorganized the Federal Administration of Public Revenue into a new agency, so it's a rebranding, and reduced its headcount by 1/3. So it's not quite the same.
Well, it's a start.
It's a start.
I mean, how many people work? Just Google how many people work for HMRC.
All right. How many people work for HMRC? Wow, 66,000.
So I've just got rid of 22,000 public sector employees in a go.
You know,
and it's a start.
Do you know, that's part of the problem. Like, you talk about tax, right? And paying off the debt and the revenues that the government has taxed. The thing is, 150 years ago, there was no income tax.
No. And it's still a temporary measure, remember?
I didn't know that.
I think it's still a temporary measure.
So what I'm trying to say is this little thing that was brought in, oh, don't worry, it's only 1%. It's now massive, and with all the indirect taxes, VAT, council tax, fuel tax, this tax.
And how much inefficiency is based on the tax regime?
Inheritance tax, I mean, that's evil, inheritance tax.
But how many people live off the tax regime? How many consultants are there out there?
A lot.
That don't contribute anything. They're just providing a service so that you and I don't mess our tax returns up. It's massive. Are you familiar with the Laffer curve?
No.
So the Laffer curve, I actually met this guy, Art Laffer. He used to work for the same company as me. He proved, all right, it's a theory, but the way to raise tax revenue is to cut taxes.
Oh, no, I do know about that.
Yeah. He was the guy who first came out with this. Supply side economics, basically. And what have we just done? Raise taxes.
Yeah.
It's ultimately comes down to economic incentives. We're incentivizing people to go to Greece, Portugal, Spain, Monaco with our tax policy.
But I think, we need to go back to how our governments raised money beforehand. One, they didn't need to raise that much money unless they were going to war.
Yeah.
Okay. So they didn't need the money to build these big, expensive aircraft carriers and send money to Ukraine to bomb Russia or whatever, or send money to Israel to bomb Palestinians. We didn't need money, and a lot of money that we spend is pointless, like HS2. I look at money that we currently use in the government as, and I've spoken to enough people, there's honestly a lot of Freemasonry going on, where, you shake hands and funny handshakes, and you're basically giving government contracts to your friends and cronies to basically make massive amounts of money, profit, for providing so-called public infrastructure, COVID passes, apps, or whatever, digital infrastructure, NHS, that was another billions of pounds that was wasted, went down nowhere. So basically, it's a way of funneling our money, stealing our money, and giving it to their friends. So the way you cut back tax is to reduce government, the size of the government, and all this bullshit expenditure that we don't need. Like, most of the infrastructure that was built in this country was built in the Victorian era by private finance.
Yeah.
There's nothing to do with the government. All the trains, all the railways, all the bridges, the viaducts, the sewage systems, all of that was built privately.
And all those companies went bust.
They didn't.
You never heard of the railway boom?
No.
They all ended up pretty much going bust.
I don't think it was all.
A lot of those companies.
But that's what happens.
They build
boom and bust. Like, you'll get an increase in supply, and then it'll contract. That's fine. That's what happens. Some businesses will fail, some will do well. That's the whole market.
What you got to remember:
competition. The alternative is government organized, communist state, like planned.
When you talk about the railways, you were talking about not a heavily populated country that you were building out. Today's economy is a different beast. You've got a developed economy where you don't need to build the infrastructure, you need to maintain it. So there has to be an incentive to put money in to maintain it. Now, how are you going to do that? Do you give that to the hands of the private companies, which is the situation we're in? And that's why Thames Water's on its knees. Or do you have to have, and I don't know the answer to this, do you have a minimum level of taxation that pays for all this? Southwest Trains got nationalised yesterday.
Well, I'm not surprised, because a lot of the stuff that's in this country privately is subsidised by the government, and it's not actually free competition.
Yeah, but that proves.
So, for example,
the private sector in an economy we have today,
but we don't have
can only go so far.
No. It also shows that we don't actually have a true private sector.
I get that.
There's no competition.
I totally agree with you. That.
So when I go to King's Cross and I want to go to Edinburgh, there's only one train company that can take me there.
Yeah, I get that.
Like, where's the competition there?
But how are you going to have two companies that take you there?
Why not? It's done in the past.
Well, how are you going to introduce competition?
You have more than 2-3 different train companies. So
you own one train company and I own the other train company, but I own the tracks.
You don't own the tracks.
Who owns the tracks?
That could be the state. That could be the government.
Yeah, but we've done that. We've already done that, and it didn't work. That's where we are now. The government owns the tracks, and the cost of maintaining the tracks is monumental. Now, I'm not disagreeing with you, but
you could levy a charge to all the companies that use the railway?
Which is why they're all going bust. That's where we are today. You've got to think about where we are. And the costs of running the economy today and running things like railways today.
The reason why I think they're going bust is because they have obscene amounts of profit.
No, but the railway companies don't.
Which they don't reinvest.
Don't get me wrong. In the past, they've all been milked. Thames Water has been milked by its private equity owners.
This is what I mean. So what they do is these private companies come in, hollow out, shell out, get all the money, don't invest, and then go, all right, bye-bye. We need to go. We're losing money now. So what I'm trying to say is the reason why we're in this situation is because of crony capitalism.
Yes, correct. Totally correct. So you're going to privatise Thames Water. You're going to expect people to put money into it, correct? As private companies, correct?
Yeah.
But you're going to tell them they can't make a profit.
No, they can make a profit.
But how are you going to stop them hollowing it out again?
Oh, I do that.
You're going to regulate it. You're going to have to heavily regulate it. Who heavily regulates it? You need a central authority.
All right.
You're in a circular argument.
No, but here we go. Look, Daily Mail, right? I'm just looking at Anglican.
Hang on, that'll be true. It's in the Daily Mail.
Yeah.
Mainstream media.
I know. But look, okay, here we go. Here's another one, right? Operating profits, 2001 to 2002.
20 years ago.
Anglican, 276 million pounds.
20 years ago.
I know.
Today?
I'm going to come to that. I'm saying 20 years ago, they were making $250 million in profit.
Yeah.
10 years ago, they were making 423 million in profit. Every water company was making massive amounts of profit. Now, Anglican is now 392 million in profit. They're making a lot of money and not reinvesting it into Thames Water. You talked about Thames Water?
Yeah.
489 million. Dude, that's a lot of money.
Thames Water a bust.
Revenue 10.7 billion, profit 2.8 billion for all the water companies. And in 2022, they paid out 1.3 billion in share to their shareholders.
That's why they're going bust. They've milked it.
This is what I'm saying. They've milked it.
Yeah. So how do you stop people milking it?
I don't know. I'm not an economist.
I'm telling you. Well, you're saying we got to do this, got to do that.
So you tell me.
You have to regulate these things, and to regulate them, unfortunately, you either need them being government owned, or you need them being regulated somehow to stop people milking them.
How about the fact that you have government not protect them and their CEOs and their criminal bankers and shareholders
take on accountability?
They take on accountability. And when a water company like here dumps sewage into the waters and the rivers, and do you know what? A bunch of people go to the headquarters and drag them out and go, what the hell? Like, I just feel they feel so secure and comfortable.
Yeah, it's crony capitalism.
And so protected that they can get away with this shit and nothing will happen. Whereas if we had a proper legal force, a police force, proper judiciary that wasn't weaponized, people that served our communities, and I went to the judge, and three judges, whatever, I know, and we have appointed them, and go, this company's screwing us.
Yeah.
And they go, yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Right. Send in the cops, break down their office, drag them to court, and start sentencing people for this criminal behavior.
Yeah.
I think a lot of other companies would be like, oh shit, we
totally agree with you.
We can't get away with that.
Yeah.
This is how it works. That's how it would work.
That's capitalism.
Not regulating.
Yeah,
not government regulating. Because the government ultimately always gets captured.
Yep, totally agree.
And ends up protecting the buddies. So the answer isn't government. The answer is local accountability and people saying, right, you're not going to get away with this. When has a banker ever gone to jail or prison?
There was one after the credit crisis, and I can't remember his name.
Liam
I can't remember his name, but yeah, it was one.
Yeah, one. But even that was a dodgy, weird thing. It wasn't about the real criminal acts that are taking place.
No.
So what I'm trying to say is, no bankers ever had to pay the cost for what they do, and it happens all the time. Even now, big companies will come in, these hedge funds, they will take a relatively profitable company or one that's not doing so well because of poor management, basically hollow it out, sell off the property company as a prop code. Then there's a service company as a serve code. Then they like do some tax shenanigans. They don't pay a penny in tax. They got a loan, dirt cheap. They sell off everything, make a massive amount of profit, and then they go, oh, well, this company's not doing so well, it's broken, and then they just sell it off, and then they walk away.
Yep.
And it's like, what the fuck?
And
what the fuck?
You and your 4 mates in Beaconsfield are going to stop that, are you?
Just who's negative now?
I am. all I'm trying to say is
who's negative now?
We've got to accept where we are. And it's your point earlier. You cannot...
It's going to be slowly.
Yeah, exactly. But you're 100% right. This all needs change, and you need responsibility, accountability brought back into the system. But we can blow the system up now. We can completely destroy it if we think that's the right way. And that's pretty much what's happened in Argentina.
Historically, if someone was not serving your purpose, your tribal leader, your village leader, or whatever, people would go with pitchforks and drag them out and sort them out.
And is that what you want?
Kind of. Kind of. Like, seriously. So right now we have councillors who sit in councils and push through the UN Agenda 2030. They don't feel responsible to anybody. They don't feel like they're accountable. They don't give a frack what we think. That era needs to end. It needs to be that when a councillor goes out and it has a meeting, we as a population are watching, listening, holding them to account, and they are terrified at what we might say or do. And, we are actively engaged in this process, but the system has designed it so that most of us don't give a damn about local politics. We don't care. We don't know who runs anything. We don't know how things work. That's the system that we're in. So when you then change that and you teach your kids, actually, this is how government works. This is how local government works. This is how you're governed. You need to take a role in this, because if you don't, then there will be abuse and you'll have your rights taken away from you. So you educate your children right from an early age, to be prepared, to be vigilant, to hold those that you have appointed as leaders to account, and don't let them get away with shit. And if they do get away with shit, actually, no, they're going to punish. They're going to be punished for it, and they're going to pay for it. So then there's a disincentive to do wrong. We need that cultural change. It will take time. It will not happen in a generation.
If only we had a new administration in America that was saying similar things to you.
Well, if they are, I'm really happy.
They are. Can they deliver? Will they deliver?
We'll see.
I mean, yeah, exactly.
Right,
we will see.
We're going to be wrapping up soon. Is there anything else in all those notes in the back of your biscuit?
We've missed loads. But
no, seriously, this is your chance. Is there anything else you want to get off your chest?
Watch the government finances in this country. Watch the currency markets. They're a barometer.
All right, okay. Last bit, right, section, 5-10 minutes. What are the positive actions people can take to protect their wealth, and what would you be doing yourself in this kind of situation? You're saying everything's going to go tits up, things are going to go really badly. So what do people do?
There's a growing probability that things are getting worse. Right, so
yeah,
I'm not qualified to give advice.
I know it's not advice. I'm just saying, what would you do?
Right, what would I do? What am I doing? I own basically nothing in the UK other than my house. I wouldn't invest in the UK. I would own assets in America because I think things are going to improve there. I would own assets that cannot be created out of thin air.
Like?
Gold. Crypto. But there really is only one cryptocurrency.
Bitcoin.
It is completely different to all the others. I have done a podcast on Bitcoin. Just going over the basics of what it is. Is now the right time to buy things like that? I do not know. Last night, Bitcoin went through $100,000.
Shut the F up.
$102,000 as we speak.
Are you shitting me?
No.
Serious?
Serious.
Guys, if there's anyone out there who's got a bit of spare Bitcoin, I have got a Bitcoin account on my website. No one's ever donated any money. I'd happily take anything. Thank you so much. Yeah. Bye-bye.
When authorities create more money in the system, money that cannot be created, by definition, has to get more valuable. Priced in that fiat currency.
Okay.
It's as simple as that.
So hold gold and crypto if you can.
Look at the growth industries. I mean, my particular interest is in energy markets. And do your research on nuclear.
And?
Oh, it's virtually a no-brainer over the next 25 years. We are going nuclear.
What have shares in nuclear?
There's enough nuclear companies. Not in the UK, there's none.
I was going to say, what nuclear companies?
There's loads. There's not that many, but there's some big ones in America.
Like? GE?
Cameco.
Cameco?
Cameco is a uranium miner. They also own Westinghouse, which is a massive builder of nuclear power stations. But these things are very volatile. You can buy uranium. You can buy instruments that hold uranium. Not advice. Has done incredibly well over the last couple of years. But you've got to think, I mean, I would make a bet that Germany will turn their nuclear power stations back on. They've turned them all off. They're now suffering the consequences of very bad energy policy.
Deindustrialization.
Oh, it's destroying Volkswagen, Porsche, BMW. The whole German economic miracle was built on three things. Cheap labour from Eastern Europe, that's gone. Poland is booming. Labour from Poland's very expensive now. It was built on Chinese growth. Well, China have grown to the extent that they now source nearly everything they want internally. They don't need Volkswagen cars. They make better cars in China. And the big driver of the German economic miracle was cheap gas from Russia. And we all know what happened there. So that was an illusion, the German economic miracle was built on those three pillars, and they've all gone. And for the first time ever, Volkswagen are on strike at the moment, I think, aren't they? First time in 87 years.
Seriously?
Yeah, they're closing 3 plants in Germany. First time they've ever closed a plant in Germany.
Oh, wow.
And they are massive employers. We don't have a car industry to speak of in this country. They are their car industry where we were when we got rid of British Leyland. They're at the start of that now. And you can see things changing. This is, I guess, my whole point. I mean, the French government fell last night. The German government will be under pressure because people are being laid off. I'm not saying it's perfect or it's right, but there is an alternative, the AFD, which is saying different things and making different promises, probably false promises. They're politicians after all, but it's attractive to some people. The world is dramatically changing as we speak. I mean, I wrote that article, Winds of Change, 14, 15 months ago now. And I talked about Argentina, El Salvador. They were the early indicators. Now it's happening in other places. And in terms of where do you invest, change creates opportunity. Or change always creates opportunity.
It does. It's always good to shake things up.
Yeah.
All right,
and the final point of optimism, it will change in this country.
I hope so.
It will.
I hope so.
Everything is cyclical, and we're somewhere near the bottom of the cycle. It's just how long is that cycle? Now, the communism in Russia was 70 years, so let's hope it's not a 70-year cycle.
Yeah, I hope not.
But yeah,
I agree. By the way, I do believe it's cyclical.
Mm.
And even if the evil people get their way, we all own nothing and are unhappy. It won't last. It just can't. You cannot do that to humanity. And where anywhere in the world has that been successful? And the thing is, we think about this as a really alien concept, but you're right, mentioning these communist countries. That's exactly what they did.
Yeah.
I talked to Mai Lee this week.
I haven't listened to that one.
It's so powerful. She grew up.
Where was she from?
She's come from Cambodia.
Right.
And the Communist Party, the Khmer Rouge, took over Cambodia, and it was hell. They did the whole collectivization, ethnic cleansing, the mass killing of intelligent people and smart people. That's why it's called killing fields.
Yeah.
It fell. And, it fell because another communist country, Vietnam, invaded Cambodia and went, whoa, this is too much. So it wasn't even the West and some Democrat. Another communist country invaded Cambodia, this communist country, and said, no, you've gone too far. I mean, it's actually madness when you think about it. But you've got Cambodia, you've got Laos, you've got Vietnam, you've got China. You've got Russia, the Soviet Union, all the Soviet states. And do you know, communism has killed more people than anything else?
Yeah.
Tens and tens of millions of people.
Yeah.
So, but look at those communist countries now. They've all been overturned. They all threw off that power status system. And, so yeah, even if things go full on shit crazy here, eventually at some point it will fail and crumble. People will say enough is enough.
Why will it happen much quicker this time round? I'll give you an answer.
My podcast.
Independent media.
Okay, fine.
Well, look at the influence independent media had on the US election. Trump went on Rogan, went on Theo Von's podcast. JD Vance went on Rogan, Theo Von's podcast. Musk went on them. Kamala Harris refused to. She was not capable of sitting down for 3 hours unscripted. Well, she's not.
She can just cackle.
Cackle. And she didn't have a teleprompter.
I know.
And I think independent media will force a change in this country, ultimately.
She's great at going round and round in circles and not actually saying anything.
To be honest, I listened to her once. I couldn't listen to anymore.
All right, anyway. Now, listen, signature question. You're on your deathbed, my friend.
Again?
Yeah, I know.
What did I say last time? The one you didn't record.
Just shut up, be quiet. Dude, it's not recording. I'm just joking.
Thank God for that.
So listen, you're on your deathbed. Before you pass on and meet your maker, what words of wisdom are you going to tell your loved ones? Buy Bitcoin!
That's not a bad shape. That's not. I hadn't thought of that one. I don't know. I mean, it's don't buy the bullshit that we're being fed today.
The latest bullshit.
The latest offering of mainstream bullshit. Actually, there's a serious point behind that. Do your own work. Do your own research. Remember, we live in an inverted world.
Did you hear my speech, The Inverted Age of Inversions?
Was that one of your rants, one of your monologue rants?
Yeah.
I did, yeah.
It was like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Come on, that was good.
Yeah, that was. Yeah. How many times did you practice that in front of the mirror?
I think it was twice.
And did you remember to turn the microphones on?
Yes. Yes. But it is. We live in an age, in inverted world, age of inversions.
My other bit of advice was don't get too pessimistic. It will improve. Just don't know where it's going to improve from.
Yeah. No, I think that's important. I think that's really important. I agree with that.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, my friend. Listen, thank you so much for coming.
Again.
Yeah. God bless you. You'll be back at some point. Yeah, dude, I'm really upset. Like, we switch everything off, right? Yeah, the mic is on.
Mic is on.
Dude, like, what the hell, man? We turn everything off and then you drop a bombshell.
We were talking economics, politics.
Yeah, and then I said, I hope there's no war. And then you said something absolutely fracking mental. What did you say?
So,
you used to be in the army.
Yeah, 30 odd years ago, I was in the army. Did 5 years. I'm now mid-50s. About a month ago, I got an email, as did everyone who's left my regiment. So it wasn't a personal email, it was a blanket email asking us if we would be willing to volunteer to undertake duties to free up manpower of the younger guys. So non-military duties. So we could free up. Well, my regiment was a ceremonial regiment as well as a military regiment. So what they're talking about is us to undertake ceremonial duties to free up. I'm 55 years old.
Have you ever heard of this before?
No.
Is this unprecedented?
As far as I'm aware. I've certainly never received an email like that.
From your Ministry of Defence, from the regiment?
From our association. So the association, presumably they've been asked to find manpower.
Why would they do that?
To free up manpower. Why do you want manpower?
Why do you think they would do that?
They're short of men. And you can speculate beyond that.
Could it be that they're short of men because they can't recruit soldiers, or because they're thinking of sending soldiers abroad to fight in a war and they don't have enough soldiers to fight?
Can't answer that. Both, probably. I don't know. I mean, they're definitely short of manpower. They've definitely got a recruiting crisis going on.
Good. Because
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
it's a banker's war, and all they're doing is sending our fittest, brightest, strongest, healthiest young men off to die and get maimed for the globalists and the bankers, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. I mean, that's absolute fact. Every war is a banker's war. But
it's not about patriotism. It's not about defending the nation, king and country, none of that. It's garbage. It's about defending profits, foreign interests, corporations, and the globalists.
Have you watched, you probably won't because I think it was released yesterday, Joe Rogan's interview with a guy called Mike Benz?
No.
Watch it.
Okay.
It also highlights the size of the task that Trump and his merry men are taking on. But watch it. Rogan was speechless.
Okay.
But anyway, so we were asked if we would volunteer to give up time to release manpower to do other unspecified duties.
I've been in touch with Mike Benz actually on X, and he said, I'm super swamped this month, but can we check back in late December? Hopefully I'll get him on.
Watch the Rogan. You want to get on as soon as you can.
Okay.
God, I hope the bloke's all right. I would name him enemy number one to the deep state.
Wow.
With what he's saying.
Wow. And I just think it's terrifying that they're asking for manpower.
I mean, there may be a completely innocent reason for it.
Yeah, but it sounds a bit weird to me.
Sounded totally bloody weird to me. 55 years old. I can't walk in a straight line. I certainly couldn't run in one.
Wow. Something very strange is happening. Because if you have a problem with recruitment and manpower, you think the next thing you do is really going to big recruitment drive. Make it so that people want to join, not go to Dad's army.
So I'll just cast a fly and speculate. What if your need is fairly immediate? Your recruiting drive isn't going to do you any good at all because that pays dividends in years, not months.
Exactly. And there's a lot of military people who are literally just sitting, answering a phone, or standing at a gate, letting people come into, a base.
And I guess that's what they wanted us for.
And they're like, you know what? Anyone can do this with a uniform.
Mm.
But what we need is young, fit fighting men who are already trained, and we don't want to waste them at a guard post.
Maybe that's the reason.
Jeez, man. All I would say is, everyone out there, don't go and fight a war for the bankers. Do you not agree? Would you send? Have you got kids?
Yeah, I was.
Would you want your kids to go out and die?
No, I was patriotic and naive when I joined the army.
Do you want them to go off to Iran to fight the Iranians?
No, not really.
Do you want them to go off and fight the Russians?
No.
They're just like us, aren't they? They're not the enemy, are they?
No.
The enemy are in the city of London.
You need to get Mike Benz on.
All right. On that note, guys.
You need to listen to that podcast first and then get him on.
Okie dokie. Right. Cheers, buddy. Thanks.
No more bombshells.
Oh, Lord.